The cargo ship Wandering Star moved quietly through the darkness of space. Inside, a young man named sat in the pilot's seat, eating instant noodles and watching the stars pass by. He was 22 years old, with messy black hair and tired eyes. This was his third solo delivery run, and he was proud of himself for not getting lost yet. His uncle had given him this job 6 months ago. "You need to learn responsibility," his uncle had said. "Delivering cargo is simple: pick up boxes, fly to location, drop off boxes. Even you cannot mess this up." Had wanted to argue, but his uncle was right. He had failed at many things before this. School bored him, office work made him want to scream, but flying through space, alone with his thoughts and his ship, felt like freedom. The computer made a soft beeping sound, looked at the screen and saw that he was approaching his destination. 4. An ice moon orbiting a gas giant. The mission was simple: deliver medical supplies and food to a research outpost. The pay was surprisingly good for such an easy job. Did not question it. Good pay meant he could buy better food next month. He looked at the cargo manifest on his tablet. Medical equipment, preserved food packets, water purification tablets, standard supplies for a remote outpost. But something bothered him. When he had loaded the cargo containers onto his ship, he noticed the security seals. They were military grade, the kind used for weapons or classified materials. Why would medical supplies need such protection? Shook his head. "Not my business," he said to himself. His uncle always told him that a good delivery man does not ask questions. He picks up, he delivers, he gets paid. Simple. The ice moon grew larger in his view screen. It was beautiful in a cold way, covered in white and blue ice that reflected the light of distant stars. Began the landing procedure, sending a communication signal to the outpost below. "For research station, this is cargo vessel Wandering Star requesting landing permission. I have your supply delivery." He waited, no response. "For research station, please respond." Silence, only the soft hum of his ship's engines. Frowned. Research outposts always had someone monitoring communications. That was basic safety protocol. He tried 3 more times, but nobody answered. A cold feeling began to grow in his stomach. Something was wrong. He considered turning back. His uncle's voice echoed in his mind. "If something feels wrong, trust your gut. No delivery is worth your life." But the delivery payment had already been transferred to his account. If he returned without completing the job, he would have to give it back. And he had already spent some of it on fuel. "I will just land, leave the supplies at the designated spot and go," told himself. In and out, 5 minutes. The Wandering Star descended through the thin atmosphere of 4. Ice crystals scraped against the hull, making sounds like whispered warnings. Landed on a flat area near the research outpost and looked out the window. The outpost was dark, no lights in the windows, no movement. The main building looked damaged, with scorch marks on the walls and broken equipment scattered around. It looked like there had been a battle here. His hands trembled slightly as he put on his thermal suit. The temperature outside was -80 degrees. Without protection, he would freeze in minutes. He grabbed a flashlight and a small plasma pistol. He was not a fighter, but his uncle insisted he carry protection. The airlock opened with a hiss and cold air rushed in. Stepped onto the frozen ground, his boots crunching on the ice. He walked toward the cargo hold of his ship and began unloading the supply containers. His plan was simple: leave everything here and run back to his ship. But then he saw something move in the shadows of the damaged building. Froze, his heart pounded in his chest. He slowly raised his flashlight and pointed it at the movement. A figure stepped out of the darkness. His breath caught in his throat. She was not human. The alien girl was tall, perhaps a head taller than. Her skin was a soft blue color like the ice around them, but warmer, alive. Her hair was silver and seemed to float slightly, as if gravity affected her differently. But it was her eyes that captured him completely. They were large and amber-colored, like honey mixed with gold. Those eyes held fear, exhaustion, and something else. Hope. She wore torn clothes that looked like they had once been elegant. Now they were dirty and damaged. She was shivering, though did not know if her species could feel cold. The alien girl looked at for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was an awkward smile, like she had learned how to do it by watching others but had not practiced enough. Her lips moved strangely, and the expression did not quite reach her eyes. But there was something deeply touching about the effort she made. She spoke in universal common, the trade language used by many species. Her pronunciation was broken and uncertain. "You came," she said. Her voice was soft and musical even when speaking a foreign language. "They said humans would come." Did not know what to say. His training had not prepared him for this. He was a cargo runner, not a first contact specialist. But looking at this alien girl, at the desperate hope in her golden eyes, he felt something stir in his chest. I am just delivering supplies," he said slowly, keeping his voice calm. "What happened here? Where is everyone?" The alien girl's smile faded. Pain crossed her features. She looked back at the damaged building, then at again. "Bad people came," she said simply. "Very bad, they kill many, take others, we hide. Only few left now." "We asked." The alien girl nodded. She turned slightly and made a soft sound like a bird singing. From the shadows of the building, more figures emerged. Counted 12 of them. Most were adults with the same blue skin and silver hair. But there were also 3 small children, holding hands and looking at with huge, frightened eyes. All of them looked starved and exhausted. Their clothes were torn. Some had visible injuries. They looked at like he was their last chance at survival. The alien girl turned back to him. "I am called now," she said. "Learned human name is easier to say." She pointed at the supply containers had been unloading. "Those for us." Looked at the containers, then at the refugees. Suddenly, the military-grade security seals made sense. The generous payment made sense. His uncle had not sent him on a simple delivery mission. He had sent him on a rescue mission. And being a fool who did not ask questions, had walked right into it. He should be angry. He should leave these supplies and fly away before whatever bad people the alien girl mentioned came back. That would be the smart choice, the safe choice. But those children were looking at him, and was looking at him, and thought about his grandfather, a man who had fought in wars and saved many lives. His grandfather always said that humans were not special because they were smart or strong. They were special because they could not ignore people in pain. Let out a long breath. It turned to mist in the freezing air. "Yes," he said finally, "the supplies are for you." Smile returned, brighter this time, more real. And in that moment, standing on a frozen moon with alien refugees all around him, realized that his simple delivery job had become something much more complicated. He had no idea just how complicated it would get. Followed and the other refugees into the damaged research outpost. The inside was worse than the outside. Walls were cracked. Equipment was destroyed. The smell of smoke and something else, something chemical, hung in the cold air. Emergency lights flickered red, casting strange shadows everywhere. Led him down a set of stairs into an underground section. Here, the damage was less severe. The refugees had made this their home. Blankets and sleeping mats covered the floor. Small heating units hummed softly, fighting against the terrible cold. It was not comfortable, but it was survival. An elderly alien sat in the corner, wrapped in layers of cloth. Her skin was a deeper blue than the others, and her silver hair had turned almost white with age. She looked at with wise, tired eyes. "A human," the elder said. "Her universal common was much better than's. We sent our message to the stars, hoping someone would hear. I did not expect someone so young." Felt uncomfortable under her gaze. "I am just a cargo runner. I did not know about any of this." The elder smiled softly. "The universe often chooses its heroes without asking their permission." sat down near. In the warmer underground area, she had stopped shivering. She looked at him with those golden eyes and found it difficult to look away. "You want to know what happened," said. It was not a question. "Yes," replied, "I need to understand." Was quiet for a moment, then she began to speak. Her people were called they came from a beautiful world covered in forests and gentle oceans. They were not warriors, they were healers. For thousands of years, they had developed a special ability. They could heal others through touch. Injuries, diseases, even some poisons. Could take away pain and repair damage just by placing their hands on someone. This gift made them valued friends to many species. They traveled the galaxy, helping those in need, asking for nothing in return except kindness. They believed that healing was their purpose, their reason for existing. But 3 months ago, everything changed. The Dominion Collective came to their world. The Dominion was a military alliance, a group of species that believed in conquest and power. They had heard about the healing ability. They wanted it for themselves, not to help the sick but to heal their soldiers. With healers, the Dominion could fight endless wars. Their warriors would never truly fall. They would be healed and sent back to battle again and again. They refused to help with violence. They tried to negotiate, to explain that their gift was not meant for war. The Dominion did not care about negotiation. They invaded. His voice grew quiet as she described what happened next. They had no weapons, no defenses. They were peaceful people facing a ruthless enemy. Many were killed. Many more were captured and forced into slavery, healing Dominion soldiers whether they wanted to or not. And a group of others managed to escape on a small ship. They flew for weeks, trying to find safety. But their ship was damaged in the escape, and they eventually crashed here on 4. They sent a distress signal, hoping someone would help. The research outpost was abandoned when they arrived. They learned later that the scientists had fled when the Dominion began expanding in this region. The refugees made the outpost their temporary home and waited. "That was 2 months ago," said. "Supplies ran out quickly. Some of us got sick. Some," she paused, pain crossing her face, "some did not survive the crash." Felt a heavy weight in his chest. These people had lost everything. Their home, their families, their peaceful way of life, and they were still being hunted. "The Dominion knows we are here," the elder said from her corner. "They have been searching for escape across the galaxy. We intercepted one of their communications yesterday. A warship is coming." His blood went cold. "When?" 6 hours from now, perhaps less. 6 hours. Looked at the refugees around him. 12 survivors, including 3 small children and 1 very old woman. His ship could carry 8 people if they squeezed together uncomfortably. Even if he took them all, there was no guarantee his small cargo ship could outrun a Dominion warship. The smart thing to do was obvious. Leave now. Take as many as his ship could hold and run. Maybe some of them would survive. Stood up suddenly. "I need to check something on my ship." He walked back up the stairs and out into the frozen air. His breath came fast and his hands were shaking again. Not from cold this time, but from fear. Real, deep fear. He reached his ship and leaned against the hull, trying to calm down. A Dominion warship. He had heard stories about them. Massive vessels filled with soldiers bred for war. Against something like that, his cargo ship was like an insect facing a giant. Pulled out his communication device and called his uncle. The screen flickered and his uncle's face appeared. He was an older man with gray hair and a scar across his chin. His expression was serious but not surprised. "I expected you to call." "You knew," said. His voice shook with a mixture of fear and anger. "You knew what this delivery really was. You sent me into this without telling me anything." His uncle nodded slowly. "Yes, I am part of a network that helps refugees escape from Dominion space. The less you knew, the safer you were. If the Dominion captured you, you could honestly say you knew nothing." Safe laughed bitterly. There is a warship coming here in 6 hours. How is that safe? It was not supposed to arrive so quickly. Our information said you had more time. His uncle's face showed regret, but also something else. Resolve. I am sorry, truly. I did not want to put you in this position, but those people needed help, and you were the only pilot available. Wanted to scream. He wanted to curse his uncle and fly away and forget any of this had ever happened. But he could not forget those children's eyes. He could not forget's awkward, hopeful smile. What am I supposed to do? He asked quietly. His uncle leaned closer to the screen. You have a choice to make. No one will blame you if you leave. You are young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Running away is not shameful. It is survival. And if I stay? If you stay, I will send help. Other ships in our network can reach your location in about 5 hours, but you will need to hold out until then. Keep the refugees safe. Give them a chance. Closed his eyes. He thought about his grandfather, the old soldier who used to tell him bedtime stories. His grandfather had once saved an entire village from bandits, armed with nothing but courage and a rusty sword. When asked him why he did it, his grandfather had laughed. Because running fast is not what makes humans special, his grandfather had said. Any animal can run. Humans are special because we run toward trouble. We see someone in pain and we cannot look away. That is our curse and our gift. Opened his eyes. He looked at his ship, then at the damaged outpost where 12 souls waited for rescue or death. Send the ships, he said to his uncle. I will keep them safe. His uncle smiled and thought he saw tears in the old man's eyes. I am proud of you, nephew. Stay alive. The screen went dark. Stood alone in the freezing wind, wondering if he had just made the bravest or decision of his life. Probably both, he thought. He walked back to the outpost, met him at the entrance, her amber eyes searching his face for answers. You did not leave, she said softly. There was wonder in her voice. I watched from the window. I thought you would fly away. Shrugged, trying to look braver than he felt. My ship is old, probably would not make it far anyway. Tilted her head, studying him. That is a lie, I can feel it. Can sense emotions through touch, but sometimes we can feel very strong feelings without touching. You are terrified, but you are staying anyway. Did not know what to say, so he simply told the truth. Help is coming, 5 hours. We need to survive until then. Smiled, a real smile this time, natural and warm. It changed her entire face, making her look younger, more alive. Then we survive, she said, together. She took his hand. Her touch was warm despite the cold air and felt something strange. The old pain in his shoulder, an injury from when he fell out of a tree as a child, suddenly faded. It had bothered him for years, a dull ache that never fully went away. Now it was gone. Noticed his surprise. A small gift, she said, for your courage. She released his hand and walked back inside. Stood there for a moment, touching his shoulder in wonder. Then he followed her. 5 hours. He had 5 hours to help these people survive. He had no idea how he would do it, but he was going to try. Gathered everyone in the underground shelter and explained the situation. Help was coming, but they needed to survive for 5 hours. A Dominion warship would arrive before that. They needed a plan. The refugees listened quietly. Fear was visible on their faces, but so was determination. They had survived too much to give up now. A voice came from the shadows. 5 hours is a long time when someone is shooting at you. Turned and saw a man step forward. He was human, middle-aged, with short gray hair and a face full of scars. He wore combat armor that had seen many battles. A large rifle hung on his back, and several knives were strapped to his belt. Who are you? Asked. Name is, I was hired to protect these people. The man looked around the shelter with tired eyes. The organization your uncle works for, they paid me to stay with the refugees until rescue arrived. Been here for 3 weeks now. Felt a spark of hope. A trained fighter would be very helpful. Then you can help us defend this place." Laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Kid, I am good, really good, but the Dominion will send dozens of soldiers, maybe hundreds. I can take down 10, maybe 20 before they get me. After that," he shrugged, "math is not in our favor." The hope faded as quickly as it had come. Looked around the shelter. 12 refugees, 1 trained mercenary, 1 cargo runner who had never fought anything scarier than a malfunctioning coffee machine. "There has to be something we can do," said. Stepped forward. "There might be one thing." She looked nervous, uncertain. "Our ship, the one we crashed in, it is badly damaged, but some systems still work." Raised an eyebrow. "The transport, I checked it when I first arrived. Navigation is destroyed. Life support is gone. The hull has holes in 3 places. That thing is not flying anywhere." "The navigation and life support are broken," yes, agreed. "But the engines still have power. And there is one weapon system that was not damaged, a mining laser." Thought about this. A ship with engines but no navigation, a weapon but no ability to aim properly. It was not much, but it was something. "If someone could pilot that ship manually," said slowly, working through the idea, "they could use it as a distraction. Draw the Dominion soldiers away from the outpost while everyone else escapes in my ship." Shook his head. "Flying a ship without navigation is suicide. You would be steering blind in a damaged vessel while getting shot at. Nobody could survive that." "I could," said quietly. Everyone looked at him. Eyes went wide with alarm. Looked like he wanted to laugh again but stopped when he saw serious expression. "Kid, you are a cargo runner. Have you ever been in combat? Have you ever flown through enemy fire?" "No," admitted. "But I know my ships. I have been flying since I was 16. My hands know what to do even when my brain cannot keep up. And right now, I am the only one who can do this." He looked at the refugees. The children were holding onto the adults, their small faces full of fear. The elder sat quietly, watching him with those ancient, knowing eyes. "You take everyone in my ship. It is small but fast. You can outrun anything the Dominion sends after you. I will take the wrecked ship and cause as much trouble as possible. Keep them busy. Give you time to reach the rescue fleet." Was silent for a long moment. Then he slowly nodded. "That might actually work. You would probably die, but it might work." "Do not be so encouraging," said with a weak smile. Grabbed his arm. "No, this is wrong. You cannot sacrifice yourself for us. We are strangers. You owe us nothing." Looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Her golden eyes were filled with tears that refused to fall. "You are not strangers anymore," he said gently. "I know your name. I know your story. I know those children are scared and that grandmother over there has been singing quietly to keep them calm." He had not realized he noticed that until he said it. "You are people, real people who deserve to live, and if I can help make that happen, then that is what I am going to do." Shook her head. "Humans, I do not understand you. You barely know us. Why would you die for us?" Thought about the question seriously. Why was he doing this? He was terrified. His hands were shaking even now. Every part of his brain screamed at him to run away and save himself. But there was something else too, something deeper, a feeling he could not name but could not ignore. "Because my grandfather told me something once," finally said. "He said that every person has a moment in their life when they have to choose who they really are. Most people never recognize that moment. They let it pass and spend the rest of their lives wondering what might have been." He smiled sadly. "I think this is my moment, and I choose to be someone who helps, even if it kills me." Stared at him for a long time. Then she did something unexpected. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. It was a gesture of deep respect and connection. "Then I will give you something," she whispered. "A blessing from my people. We give it to warriors before they face their final battle." She placed both hands on his chest, felt warmth spread through his body, not just physical warmth but something else. Courage. Calm. His fear did not disappear, but it became smaller, easier to carry. When she pulled away, spoke in her native language first, then translated. May your fire never dim, little human. May your spirit fly free even when your body cannot follow. May those you protect remember your name until the stars themselves grow cold. Blinked, surprised by the weight of the words. That is a lot. It is what we say to heroes, replied, because that is what you are choosing to be. Cleared his throat. This is very touching, but we have work to do. The Dominion is not going to wait while we have emotional moments. He was right, pushed down his feelings and focused on the task ahead. They had 4 hours left now. 4 hours to prepare, to plan, to survive. The next few hours were busy. Helped examine the crashed ship. It was worse than had expected. The hull was bent and twisted. 2 of the 3 engines were completely dead. The cockpit had no glass left in the windows, just empty frames open to the vacuum. You will need to wear a full-pressure suit the entire time, said. No life support means no heat, no air. 1 tear in that suit and you are dead in seconds. Found a suit in the ship's emergency supplies. It was designed for bodies, taller and slimmer than humans, but he managed to make it fit. The suit was uncomfortable, squeezing him in strange places, but it would keep him alive. The mining laser was the only good news. It was a powerful tool meant for cutting through asteroids. Against enemy soldiers, it would be devastating. Against a warship, it might do some damage. Maybe. Practiced with the manual controls. Without navigation, he would have to fly by sight and instinct. Every turn, every adjustment would depend on his own judgment. One mistake and he would crash into the moon's surface or drift into open space. 2 hours before the Dominion was expected to arrive, gathered everyone at the Wandering Star. Had already loaded the refugees and the supply containers. The ship was crowded but manageable. The 3 children looked at with big eyes. One of them, a small girl with silver hair tied in braids, ran forward and hugged his leg. Thank you, she said in halting universal common. Thank you for being nice. Felt his heart break a little. He knelt down and patted her head gently. You be brave, okay? Stay with the others. Everything will be fine. The child nodded and ran back to the waiting adults. The elder grandmother approached next. She moved slowly, her old joints stiff from the cold, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Young human, she said, I have lived for many centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched stars die. She placed a wrinkled hand on his cheek. In all that time, I have never met anyone quite like your kind. Humans are strange creatures. You are so small, so brief, like candles in the cosmic wind. Yet you burn so brightly, so fiercely. She smiled, and it was like watching sunrise on a frozen world. Thank you, whatever happens next, know that you have given us hope. And for people who had lost everything, hope is the most precious gift of all. She walked away to board the ship, stood there feeling the weight of her words. Finally only remained. She stood facing him, her blue skin pale in the dim light, her amber eyes reflecting his face. I do not want to leave you, she said softly. I know, but those children need you, your people need you, and I need to know that you are safe. Reached up and touched his face the same way the elder had done, but this touch was different, more personal, more intimate. If you survive this, she said, I want you to find me, promise me. Smiled, I promise. It was probably a lie. They both knew it. But it was a good lie, the kind that gives strength when strength is needed most. Nodded once, then turned and boarded the ship without looking back. If she looked back, she might not be able to leave. The airlock closed, the engines powered up, and the Wandering Star lifted off, carrying 12 survivors toward safety. Watched until the ship disappeared into the dark sky. Then he turned and walked toward the wrecked vessel. It was time to cause some trouble. Sat in the damaged cockpit of the ship, wearing his pressure suit and waiting. The cold vacuum of space pressed against him through the broken windows. His breath echoed inside the helmet. His heart pounded like a drum. Through the gaps in the hull, he could see the ice moon stretching out below him. Somewhere up there, beyond the thin atmosphere, was flying the wandering star toward the rescue fleet. Somewhere up there was watching the stars and thinking of him. At least he hoped she was thinking of him. The warning system, one of the few things still working, suddenly screamed. A large vessel was entering the moon's orbit. The Dominion warship had arrived. Looked up through a crack in the ceiling and saw it. The warship was massive, dark and angular like a giant predator made of metal. Red lights glowed along its hull. Weapons bristled from every surface. It was a machine built for one purpose only: destruction. Against that monster had a broken ship and a mining laser. "This is fine," whispered to himself. "Everything is fine." He watched as smaller ships detached from the warship and descended toward the moon. Landing craft, carrying soldiers. The Dominion was not taking chances. They were sending ground forces to capture the refugees. Counted 6 landing craft. If each carried 20 soldiers, that was over 100 enemies. His hands trembled on the controls. Every part of him wanted to hide, to stay quiet, to let them pass. But if he did nothing, they would find that the outpost was empty. They would scan for the wandering star. They would chase and the refugees. And his small cargo ship could never outrun 6 landing craft. He had to act. He had to give them something else to focus on. Powered up the single working engine. The ship groaned and shook. Warning lights that still functioned flashed red across the control panel. Everything about this vessel screamed that it should not be flying. He flew it anyway. The ship rose unsteadily from the frozen ground, gripped the manual controls and aimed toward the landing craft. Without navigation, he was flying by sight alone. The ship responded slowly, fighting him on every turn. It was like trying to ride a dying animal. One of the landing craft noticed him. It changed direction, coming to investigate. A communication signal came through his damaged radio. "Unidentified vessel, this is Dominion Strike Force. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in termination." Did not respond. Instead, he aimed the mining laser. The first shot was wild, missing the landing craft completely. Had never fired a weapon like this before. The power of it surprised him, pushing his unstable ship backward. He adjusted, compensated, and fired again. This time he hit. The mining laser cut through the landing craft like a hot knife through ice. The vessel exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Felt no satisfaction. Those were soldiers inside, living beings who had just died. But they would have killed the refugees without a second thought. He could not afford to feel guilty. The other landing craft scattered, surprised by the attack. Then they regrouped and began firing back. Dove and rolled, using every bit of flying skill he had. His damaged ship could not move quickly, but he could predict where the enemy would shoot and be somewhere else when the shots arrived. It was not elegant. It was barely controlled chaos. But it was working. On the surface of the moon, the soldiers who had already landed were confused. Their support from the air was being challenged. Some began shooting at ship instead of searching for refugees. Good. Every moment they focused on him was a moment they were not chasing the wandering star. The Dominion warship in orbit took notice. A communication came through different from before. This voice was deeper, more commanding. A leader. "Human pilot, this is Commander of the Dominion Collective. You are interfering in official Dominion business. Surrender now and you will be spared." Laughed. It was a desperate, slightly crazy laugh. He opened his communication channel. "Commander, this is of the cargo ship Wandering Star. Well, actually, I am in a different ship right now. Long story. Anyway, I respectfully decline your offer." There was silence. Then the commander spoke again, his voice cold. "You are one human in a broken ship. You cannot win. Your death will accomplish nothing. Dodged another barrage of fire. A shot clipped his wing, sending his ship spinning. He fought the controls and stabilized. Maybe you are right, replied. Maybe I will die here, but I will make sure you remember this day. Every species in this galaxy will hear how one human cargo runner held off a Dominion strike force with a piece of junk and sheer spite. He paused, then added, "How does that sound for your reputation?" The commander did not respond immediately. Knew he had touched something important. The Dominion cared about image. They wanted their enemies to fear them. A story about a single human defying them, making them look foolish, would damage that image. Destroy him, the commander finally ordered. Now. The warship's main weapons powered up, saw the glow of energy building along its hull. This was not like the small shots from the landing craft. This would vaporize his ship completely. He pushed his engine to maximum, aiming away from the moon. The damaged ship screamed in protest. Systems failed left and right. The engine began to overheat. The warship fired, threw his ship into a spin, using the damaged thrusters to move in an unpredictable pattern. The massive energy blast passed just beneath him, close enough that he could feel the heat through his suit. He was still alive, barely. But his ship was dying. The engine was failing. Smoke filled the cockpit despite the vacuum. He had minutes left, maybe less. Then something wonderful happened. New signals appeared on his damaged scanner. Ships, multiple ships coming fast. The rescue fleet had arrived early. 3 human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel, followed by 2 ships from allied species. They were not large vessels, not warships, but they were enough. Enough to change the math. Enough to make the Dominion hesitate. A new voice came over the communication channel. Dominion warship, this is Captain Myra of the Human Defense Coalition. You are operating in neutral territory without authorization. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. Commander responded with anger. This is Dominion business. Those refugees are our property. People are not property, Captain Myra replied calmly. And these people are under human protection now. Your choice, Commander. Fight us and explain to your superiors why you wasted resources over a handful of refugees, or withdraw and pretend this never happened. There was a long, tense silence. Ship drifted, its engine finally dead. He watched the standoff from his broken cockpit, holding his breath. Finally, the Dominion warship began to turn. The landing craft followed, returning to their mothership. They were leaving. Let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Relief washed over him, so strong that tears formed in his eyes. But his relief was short-lived. Without engine power, his ship was falling toward the moon. The weak gravity was pulling him down slowly but surely. He had no way to stop. "This is," he broadcast on the open channel. "I could use some help here. My ship is kind of dying." A familiar voice responded. "We see you is coming. Stay calm." Stay calm, easy for her to say. Watched the icy surface of the moon grow closer. His ship began to heat up as it entered the thin atmosphere. The broken hull rattled and shook. Then another ship appeared beside him. The Wandering Star, his ship, was piloting, pushing the small vessel to its limits. "Open your airlock," commanded. "We cannot dock, but I can get close enough for a jump." A jump from one ship to another, in the atmosphere of a frozen moon, without any safety equipment. "You are crazy," said. "You are one to talk," replied. "Now jump before your ship breaks apart." Move to the airlock. His legs shook, his hands shook, everything shook. He opened the inner door, then the outer door. The Wandering Star hovered just a few meters away. He could see the open cargo hold, see standing there reaching out to him. He jumped. For one terrible moment he was floating in empty air, the frozen ground far below, nothing beneath him but death. Then hands grabbed him, strong hands pulling him into the cargo hold. The airlock slammed shut behind him. Lay on the floor of his own ship, gasping for breath. Knelt beside him, her hands on his chest. He felt her healing warmth spreading through him, fixing the small injuries he had collected, calming his racing heart. "You came back," she whispered. Her eyes were full of tears now, tears that finally fell. "You were supposed to run. You were supposed to live." Smiled weakly. He was exhausted, bruised, and his borrowed pressure suit smelled like smoke. But he was alive. "Humans do not run fast, remember," he said. "We are bad at it." Laughed through her tears. It was the most beautiful sound had ever heard. Outside the ship, the Dominion warship disappeared into the distance. The rescue fleet formed a protective circle around the wandering star, and on the frozen moon below, the wreckage of the ship crashed into the ice, marking the spot where one ordinary human had done something extraordinary. Closed his eyes and let healing warmth carry him into peaceful sleep. For now they were safe. 3 months had passed since the events on 4. Stood on the observation deck of Space Station Sigma-7, watching ships come and go. The station orbited a blue planet called New Sol, one of humanity's largest colonies in this sector of space. It was busy here. Cargo ships, passenger vessels, military patrols, all moving in a careful dance around the station. Much had changed in 3 months. The story of 4 had spread across the galaxy. News channels told the tale of a young human cargo runner who stood alone against a Dominion strike force. Some versions of the story were exaggerated, claiming had destroyed dozens of ships. Other versions were more accurate but still painted him as a hero. Did not feel like a hero. He still woke up some nights covered in sweat, dreaming of the warship's weapons pointed at him. He still flinched when he heard loud noises. But he was learning to live with these things. Said they were normal reactions to trauma. She should know. Her people had experienced far worse. The refugees had found a new home on New Sol. The human government had given them land and resources to build a community. It was not the same as their lost, but it was safe. The children could grow up without fear. The elders could rest without constantly watching the sky for enemies. The elder grandmother had passed away peacefully 1 month after arriving. She was very old, explained, and had been holding on just long enough to see her people reach safety. At her funeral, she was wrapped in flowers from both and human traditions. Hundreds of people attended, human and alien alike. Before she died, the grandmother had called to her bedside. "You changed something," she had whispered. "Not just for us, but for humans. The galaxy watches your kind now with different eyes." She was right. The incident at 4 had become a symbol. Humans were no longer seen only as dangerous survivors who looked out for themselves. Now they were also known as protectors. Other species suffering under Dominion rule began reaching out to human networks, asking for help. His uncle had been busy. The underground rescue network was growing, funded by donations from grateful species and supported by volunteers from a dozen worlds. What had once been a small operation was becoming a movement. "You look thoughtful." Turned to see approaching. She wore simple human-style clothes, now comfortable things she had learned to like. Her silver hair was tied back in a ponytail. She looked healthier than she had 3 months ago, less thin and less tired. "Just thinking about how strange life is," said. "A few months ago, I was just a cargo runner who ate too many instant noodles. Now I am apparently some kind of galactic symbol." Smiled. Her smiles were natural now, easy and warm. She had learned much about human expressions, and she used them well. "You were never just a cargo runner," she said. "You were always someone special. You simply did not know it yet." Laughed. "That sounds like something from a bad movie." "Maybe, but it is also true." They stood together, watching the ships move outside the window. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was still conquering, still enslaving, still causing pain. But also out there, people were fighting back. Small victories, one rescue at a time. The door behind them opened and walked in. The mercenary looked different these days too. Less tired, less cynical. He had stayed with After 4, claiming he had nothing better to do, but knew the truth, had found something worth fighting for. Got a new job, announced, tossing a data pad to. Your uncle sent it over. Looks like a refugee group needs extraction from Dominion territory, pretty deep behind enemy lines. Looked at the data. The mission was dangerous, very dangerous, the kind of thing that could easily get them all killed. 3 months ago, he would have been terrified. He was still a little scared now, but the fear was smaller, manageable. He had faced worse and survived. He had found out what he was capable of. When do we leave? He asked. Grinned, tomorrow morning. Ship is already fueled and ready. The wandering star had been repaired and upgraded. Biotechnology now merged with human engineering, making it faster and stronger than before. It was not a warship, but it was not just a cargo vessel anymore either. It was something new. Looked at the mission data over shoulder. Her expression grew concerned. This is very dangerous, she said quietly. The Dominion has increased security in that region, many patrols. I know, said. You could die. I know that too. Was silent for a moment, then she nodded slowly. Then I am coming with you. Started to protest, but held up her hand. No, you do not get to argue. My people were saved because you risked everything. Now other people need saving. I want to help. She touched his arm gently. Besides, someone needs to keep you alive. You are very bad at doing that yourself. Laughed. She has a point, kid. Looked at the determination in her golden eyes. He remembered the frightened refugee he had met on that frozen moon, the girl who had smiled awkwardly and spoken in broken words. She had changed so much, grown so much. Or maybe she had always been strong and brave. Maybe she had just needed a reason to show it. Okay, said finally, we go together. That night they had dinner in the station's common area. The three of them sat together, eating simple food and talking about everything and nothing. Told stories about his mercenary days, shared legends from her, talked about his grandfather, the old soldier who had taught him that running toward trouble was what made humans special. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless darkness. Each star was a sun. Each sun might have planets. Each planet might have people, living and loving and struggling and hopping. The universe was so vast, so full of pain and beauty. And somewhere in that universe, a young cargo runner was making a difference. Not because he was the strongest or the bravest, but because he had decided to care. Because he had looked at people in need and chosen to help instead of turning away. Later that night, found alone on the observation deck again. He was watching the stars, lost in thought. What are you thinking about now? She asked. The future, admitted. There is so much suffering out there. The Dominion is huge. We are so small. Sometimes I wonder if what we do even matters. Moved to stand beside him. She took his hand, and he felt her warmth spread through him. She said softly, we have a saying. A single light cannot fill the darkness, but a single light can show others the way, and many lights together can turn night into day. She looked at him with those beautiful amber eyes. You are a light, a small one maybe, but you shine. And because you shine, others are starting to shine too. That matters. Even if we cannot save everyone, even if we cannot fix everything, every life we save matters. Felt something warm in his chest. It was not healing power. It was something else. Something that had been growing since that day on the frozen moon when a frightened alien girl had smiled at him and changed his life. Thank you, he said, for believing in me, for staying with me, for everything. Smiled, a real smile, full of warmth and something deeper, something that looked like love. Thank you for coming to deliver supplies, she replied, even if you had no idea what you were really delivering. Laughed, hope, I was delivering hope, I just did not know it. And now, squeezed her hand and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow they would fly into danger again. Tomorrow they would risk their lives for strangers. Tomorrow they would face the darkness. But tonight they had each other, they had purpose, they had hope. "Now I know exactly what I am delivering," said, "and I am going to keep delivering it until the galaxy runs out of people who need saving." Leaned her head against his shoulder. "Humans are insane," she whispered. Grinned, remembering something he had said to her long ago. "That is why you like us." The stars twinkled in the darkness outside. Somewhere, a ship launched toward distant worlds. Somewhere, refugees waited for rescue. Somewhere, hope was being born again and again in the hearts of those who refused to give up. And aboard the wandering star, 3 unlikely heroes prepared for their next adventure. The story was just beginning.